Have you ever wondered how Mexico's borders came to be as we know them today? Well, to trace their origins, one must travel back to the 16th century, during the period of Spanish colonization. At this time, the New World was a vast, uncharted territory, ripe for exploration and settlement. The Spanish were among the first Europeans to establish a significant foothold in the Americas. With their arrival in Mexico, they brought not only their culture, language and religion, but also their desire to expand their empire. This led to the establishment of early boundaries that would later form the basis of Mexico's borders. In the midst of this era of colonization, there was a significant event that played a pivotal role in shaping Mexico's borders: the Treaty of Tordesillas. This agreement, signed in 1494 between Spain and Portugal, essentially split the New World between these two powerhouses. According to this treaty, lands to the west of an imaginary line running down the Atlantic Ocean were claimed by Spain, while lands to the east were claimed by Portugal. This treaty greatly influenced the territorial boundaries of many countries in the Americas, including Mexico. It set the stage for the Spanish to lay claim to vast swaths of territory, including most of what we now know as modern-day Mexico. However, it's essential to understand that these borders were not fixed or clearly defined during this period. They were often disputed and changed frequently as new areas were explored and claimed. It wasn't until centuries later, after numerous wars, treaties and negotiations, that Mexico's borders began to resemble what we see today. So Mexico's modern borders have their roots in the period of Spanish colonization. They are the result of centuries of exploration, conflict and negotiation, a fascinating testament to the country's rich and complex history. But what about the infamous Texas question? How did it contribute to shaping Mexico's northern border? Let's rewind to the early 19th century. Texas was then a part of Mexico, but the region was sparsely populated, and the Mexican government had a hard time controlling it. To address this, they began encouraging settlers from the United States to move in, hoping they would pledge loyalty to Mexico. However, cultural and political differences soon created tensions between these settlers and the Mexican government. Fast forward to 1836, the settlers, now significantly outnumbering the original Mexican inhabitants, declared independence from Mexico, leading to the Texas Revolution. After a year of conflict, the Republic of Texas was born. However, Mexico never officially recognized Texas's independence, leading to a decade of intermittent conflicts. Meanwhile, the United States, guided by the doctrine of manifest destiny, had its eyes set on westward expansion. In 1845, the U.S. formally annexed the Republic of Texas, much to the chagrin of Mexico. This act of annexation was the final straw, setting the stage for the Mexican-American War that would further redefine Mexico's northern border. The Texas question was a significant turning point in the history of Mexico's borders. It was a saga of ambition, conflict and diplomacy that not only altered the geographical boundaries of two nations, but also left a lasting impact on their cultural and political landscapes. The annexation of Texas by the United States was not just a territorial acquisition. It was a manifestation of the growing American influence and a testament to the challenges Mexico faced in maintaining control over its far-flung territories. It was a chapter where the destinies of two neighboring nations intertwined, leading to a border that is much more than a mere line on a map. The Texas question was a defining moment in the history of Mexico's borders. The repercussions of this event are still felt today, as it set the stage for the complex relationship between Mexico and the United States, influencing their politics, economies, and societies for the centuries to come. Yet the Texas question was just the beginning. What happened next? The next chapter in this saga unfolds with the Mexican-American War, a conflict that would dramatically redefine Mexico's borders yet again. The Mexican-American War erupted in 1846, a consequence of the unresolved Texas question and the United States' expansionist manifest destiny ideology. It was a war that was fought on multiple fronts, with battles raging from Texas to California and many places in between. The war was marked by the contrasting strategies of the two nations. The Mexican forces, under the leadership of General Antonio López de Santa Anna, employed a defensive strategy, trying to repel the invasions. The American forces, on the other hand, led by General Zachary Taylor and later by General Winfield Scott, adopted an aggressive approach, pushing deep into Mexican territory. In the end, the American forces emerged victorious. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, signed in February 1848, marked the official end of the war. Its terms were harsh for Mexico, which ceded approximately half of its territory, including present-day Arizona, California, New Mexico, Texas, and parts of Colorado, Nevada, and Utah. But the border adjustments didn't stop there. A few years later, in 1853, the United States purchased a strip of land from Mexico in a deal known as the Gadsden Purchase. This transaction added parts of present-day Arizona and New Mexico to the United States, further shrinking Mexico's borders. The Mexican-American War and the subsequent territorial acquisitions by the United States fundamentally reshaped the map of North America. They marked the end of Mexico's northern territorial expansion and the beginning of a new era in its history. These events also had profound implications for the people living in these territories. They found their allegiances, their national identities, and their lives disrupted and transformed as the borders shifted around them. The Mexican-American War brought about another significant shift in Mexico's borders. In the next scene, we will delve into the border disputes of the 20th century, adding another layer to this complex and fascinating story. Moving into the 20th century, did Mexico's borders remain stable, or were there further disputes? A question worth exploring as we delve deeper into the complexities of border disputes. Throughout the 20th century, Mexico's borders were not immune to controversy. However, compared to the tumultuous 19th century, its borders remained relatively stable. Yet a few disputes did emerge, particularly concerning its southern neighbors, Guatemala and Belize. Let's start with Guatemala. The boundary between Mexico and Guatemala was generally established in the late 19th century. However, numerous small adjustments were made throughout the 20th century, often due to natural changes in the course of rivers that form part of the boundary. These adjustments, while minor, sometimes led to tensions between the two countries. Then, there's Belize. A former British colony, Belize shares a border with Mexico that has been a source of contention. When Belize gained independence in 1981, Mexico was one of the first countries to recognize it. However, the exact boundary remained a contentious issue. The dispute was mainly over three areas: the Rio Hondo, the Chetumal Bay, and the Belize River. Negotiations between the two countries in the late 20th century led to an agreement in 2008 that officially demarcated the border. Despite these disputes, it's essential to note that Mexico's relationships with its neighbors have remained largely peaceful. Unlike many countries around the world, Mexico has managed to resolve its border disputes through diplomacy and negotiation, rather than resorting to military force. This is a testament to the country's commitment to maintaining peaceful relations with its neighbors. In conclusion, while the 20th century did see some disputes over Mexico's borders, they were minor compared to the upheavals of the 19th century. The borders of Mexico have remained largely stable, a testament to the nation's diplomatic efforts and commitment to maintaining peaceful relations with its neighbors. Despite these disputes, Mexico's borders have remained largely stable since the late 19th century. So, how has Mexico's population evolved alongside these border changes? Mexico's population has experienced remarkable growth over the centuries. In the 16th century, following the Spanish conquest, the population was reduced to a mere 1.2 million due to diseases such as smallpox. However, it rebounded in the 18th century, reaching around 6 million by the dawn of the 19th century. The 19th century saw further growth despite the turmoil of wars and border changes. By the time of the Mexican Revolution in the early 20th century, the population stood at around 15 million. This growth accelerated in the latter half of the 20th century, with the population doubling from 35 million in the mid-century to 70 million by the end of the century. This growth wasn't just numerical, but also ethnically diverse. Mexico is a melting pot of cultures, with roots tracing back to the indigenous people, Spanish colonizers, African slaves, and more recent waves of immigrants from Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. The indigenous population, though reduced significantly due to Spanish colonization, has remained a vital part of Mexico's cultural fabric. Today, there are over 60 different indigenous ethnic groups in Mexico, each with its unique language and culture. The Mestizo population, those of mixed indigenous and European ancestry, form the majority, accounting for nearly 60% of the population. The rest of the population is a vibrant mix of indigenous people, people of European descent, and Afro-Mexicans, each contributing to the rich tapestry of Mexican culture. In recent decades, Mexico has also seen increasing immigration from countries such as the United States, Argentina, and Guatemala, adding another layer to the country's ethnic diversity. So as we can see, Mexico's population growth is not just a story of numbers but also a testament to its rich cultural diversity. The population growth has paralleled the country's tumultuous history, with every wave of immigration and every shift in borders leaving a lasting impression on the country's demographic landscape. Mexico's diverse population reflects its rich history and complex border changes. But what about Mexico's economic growth and political landscape? How have they been influenced by these historical events? Upon gaining independence in the early 19th century, Mexico's economy was primarily agrarian, reliant on a small number of wealthy landowners. However, this economic structure was destined for change. The Mexican Revolution in the early 20th century marked a pivotal point in Mexico's economic growth, as the government began to implement significant land reforms. These reforms aimed to break up the large estates and redistribute land to the poor, sparking a shift towards a more industrial economy. The Institutional Revolutionary Party, or PRI, who held power for over 70 years, oversaw much of this transformation. Under the PRI, Mexico experienced a period of impressive economic growth known as the Mexican Miracle. This period, spanning from 1940 to 1970, saw industrial production double and GDP per capita grow by nearly 6% annually. However, the late 20th century brought about a series of economic crises. The lost decade of the 1980s saw Mexico grappling with inflation, debt, and unemployment. This economic instability led to the rise of the National Action Party, or PAN, who implemented a series of neoliberal reforms aimed at stabilizing the economy. In the 21st century, Mexico's economy has continued to grow despite challenges. The rise of the left-wing party, Morena, in 2018 marked a shift in Mexico's political landscape. Morena's leader, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, has focused on social programs and poverty reduction, reflecting a new approach to economic growth. Throughout its history, Mexico's economic growth has been intrinsically linked to its political evolution. From the land reforms of the Mexican Revolution to the neoliberal policies of the PAN and the social focus of Morena, each political shift has left an indelible mark on Mexico's economy. Mexico's economic and political evolution is deeply intertwined with its historical border changes. So, where does that leave Mexico today? As we delve into the modern era, Mexico is a vibrant, multifaceted country, steeped in history yet constantly evolving. It's a country in a state of flux, grappling with the challenges of the 21st century, while still navigating the complexities of its past. In terms of borders, issues remain. The Mexico-United States border, stretching over 2,000 miles, is one of the most politicized and heavily guarded in the world. While the two nations share a rich history, the border is a source of contention, with issues such as immigration and drug trafficking often dominating the discourse. Economically, Mexico has made significant strides. It is the 15th largest economy in the world, with a diverse portfolio that includes manufacturing, mining, and services. However, economic inequality persists, with wealth concentrated in urban areas. The North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, and its successor, the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, have played a significant role in shaping Mexico's economic landscape, fostering trade but also leading to debates about their impact on local industries. Politically, Mexico is a federal republic, with a democratic government that has been shaped by a multitude of political parties over the years. The Institutional Revolutionary Party, or PRI, held power for over 70 years, a period often referred to as the perfect dictatorship. However, the turn of the millennium saw the National Action Party, or PAN, and later, the National Regeneration Movement, or Morena, break the PRI's hold, reflecting a shift in the political landscape. In the realm of leadership, Mexico has seen a wide array of rulers, from the charismatic to the controversial. Leaders like Carlos Salinas de Gortari, Vicente Fox, and the current president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, have each left their mark on Mexico's political and socio-economic landscape. The history of Mexico's borders provides a fascinating lens through which to understand the country as we know it today. So, we've taken a journey through the history of Mexico's borders. We've seen how they were initially drawn, and how they've shifted over the years due to various disputes and conflicts. We've delved into the Texas question and the Mexican-American War, and seen how these events greatly influenced the nation's boundaries. We've also explored Mexico's population growth and how the rich tapestry of ethnicities has woven together to form the vibrant and diverse nation we see today. We've examined the economic growth and political landscape of the country, taking a look at the different parties and rulers who've shaped its history. In the modern era, we've seen Mexico evolve into a country that's rich in culture, steeped in history, and full of promise for the future. Understanding Mexico's past helps us appreciate its present and anticipate its future. Until next time, keep exploring history with us.